Just three ordinary guys trying to understand the crazy world around them. We don't have all the answers, but we've got all the questions. You're listening to Just Add Bourbon with Jimmy, JD, and Brad.
What's up, everybody? I'm Jimmy Don Kerr.
I'm Brad Broaddus.
And I'm JD Dammers.
And you are listening to the Just Add Bourbon podcast. Fellas, it's another beautiful Sunday evening here in the hills of eastern Kentucky. We're coming live from JD's bachelor pad. I'm trying to think of a good name, JD. Should we call it like the barrel, or should we call it... We need to come up with a good name for your bachelor pad to go along with the podcast.
I have a name for it, but I don't feel comfortable sharing it on this podcast.
We appreciate that. Guys, before we jump into the primary topic this week, wanted to tell you a little bit about my weekend. I got to go down to Louisville yesterday to the Bourbon and Beyond, not the Bourbon and Beyond, the Louder Than Life Festival, and got to check something off a bucket list for me, which is I got to see Guns N' Roses. It was really cool. They put on a phenomenal show. Also got to watch Ice Cube, who, believe it or not, was really good. Like, it was really good. He, you remember when you were a teenager and you're kind of venturing, you're being a little bit rebellious and you listen to music that actually has cuss words in it? Well, for me, that was NWA. And then, Ice Cube, Eazy-E, Ice Cube kind of split off from them and did his thing. And so I was always a big Cube fan. And then when I was in college, the movie Friday came out. That's a classic, Boys in the Hood. So I've always kind of been an Ice Cube fan. And he put on a phenomenal show, and then Godsmack played after them. And I had seen them like 5 times, but they were really good. They've honed their craft and become really, really good. And then GNR, man, it was just unbelievable. I mean, I was in middle school when Appetite for Destruction came out. I was in middle school, so my mom and dad aren't taking me to a Guns N' Roses show. And I can remember this, talk about, making you feel old. When Use Your Illusions 1 and Use Your Illusions 2 came out, remember the double album that came out?
Right.
Our friend Derek Hensley, lovingly known as Buzz, actually gathered our money and went to South Williamson to the record store on the release day and bought Use Your Illusions 1 and 2, and then came back and everybody came to my house and we sat around and had a listening party of those double albums. So getting to see those guys was actually really cool. Axl sounded good. He kind of looks weird, I don't know how to describe it. He's just like us. He's older.
Yeah.
But, back then he was a little scrawny, just could howl. I mean, it was crazy. And he can still do that, but a little too much plastic surgery, I think, and maybe a little weight gain. But he still brought it, and then Slash is just ridiculous. Slash is such a good guitar player.
Like, I was always a fan of Guns N' Roses and Axl, but I'm just telling you, I always thought Slash was the coolest dude that ever put on a pair of shoes. Like,
it was that hat,
man. Like, there's no way.
Did he have the hat on last night?
Oh yeah, he had the hat.
Do you know anybody else that can wear that hat?
No, there's nobody that can wear that hat and pull it off the way the Slash pulls it.
Like, but if you seen him without it, he would look weird, right? Like,
yeah.
But that hat just goes with him, man. Like, it just. But to me, Slash is still the coolest person in the world.
And they played for 3 hours, and it confirmed once again that I'm getting old because I could have handled that. I was about to die by the time that show was over. Because I was so into it, and I had my cousin ended up springing for what they call VIP tickets, so we actually got to go. We were right by the stage, so nice. I had phenomenal seats, man. It was so much fun. But so I just wanted to drop that. That was a bucket list thing for me. I've tried to go watch them 20 times. Of course, they broke up, not long after Use Your Illusions 1 and 2, and then I didn't really want to see Axl and Buckethead, and then I've tried to go multiple times since they got back together. So it was a big deal for me last night. I had a really awesome time.
I feel like I would like seeing Ice Cube, man.
Ice Cube was awesome. I mean, he was awesome. He sounded great, and I forgot that he did that song, and it's probably the most famous song that he had. Was that song, You Can Do It, Put Your Back Into It?
Oh, yeah. I
forgot he even sang that. And he did a couple NWA tunes. He did a couple NWA songs. It was just it was a lot of fun.
Today was a good day's by Jam.
Yes, that's what he closed with. But it was really good. All right, so we'll get off the GNR talk. I just wanted to talk about that. I just had an awesome time last night, and I thank my cousin for hooking us up with those VIP tickets and then just getting the opportunity to go. So, all right. So the topic this week, we really got one primary topic, and it's something that we kind of hit on last week's show And that has to do with, it was basically Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, Ukraine, and Biden basically bragging that he got a prosecutor there fired. And that turned into a whole other thing almost immediately after the show. And we've got into this week, the Democrats are back on the impeachment train. And I like to call this Russia 2.0, where basically it's almost identical to what they did with the Russia, trying to say that Trump did something wrong, and that turned out, we think, not to be true. And now we're into this whole Ukraine scandal and them trying to impeach the president because he had a conversation with, the Ukrainian president. And you heard everything from there was quid pro quo to, he shouldn't be talking to another foreign leader about our elections. JD, what's your take on what you've seen this past week?
Well, I've seen a lot of, both sides of the political party blaming each other. It's this guy's fault, it's that guy's fault. I think probably everybody's probably a little bit got their hands dirty on this one. I do think the impeachment inquiry needs to be done. And if it turns out to be nothing, then that's fine. That's fine.
Why do you think the impeachment inquiry needs to be done? Because I'm going to be honest with you. This is the first time, the Russia thing bothered me, but again, you're like, well, okay, let's take that serious. I mean, if they're interfering with our election, if Trump was a secret agent, whatever, okay, let's look into that.
Right.
But this is the first time that the Democrats have really done something this really bothers me that they're doing this. And I meant to look this up, and with, traveling this weekend, going to the show and all that, I didn't get to look this up. Because it feels like to me that the Democrats do nothing but try to impeach Trump. And I was going to look up how many bills or laws they've passed since Trump became president. And I didn't get to do that.
No.
I will do that and bring it up at some later date. But why do you think the impeachment inquiry is even necessary?
Because you can't use foreign or government power for personal gain. You can't withhold money. But this $400 million in military aid you're supposed to give this foreign country, you can't hold that back until you get your favor done. That's not how government works. That's how business works. As a businessman, you can do those things because it's your private money and I can pull my strings. But as the government, as the head of the government, you can't use the taxpayer money to get personal favors done.
Did Trump do that, Brad? Did he actually do that?
Well, there was a delay in the money going, which would be normal for any time that if I was working something out with a foreign country and I'm going to be giving them money, I don't want to give them money until I actually talk to the leader of that country. That did not come out until a month after the conversation. Ukraine wasn't even aware that the money was being withheld at that point until over a month after the conversation.
Well, also in there, I read something, and maybe I'm wrong, JD, maybe you've read this too, that the United States actually signed a treaty with Ukraine that corruption could be investigated. They could help each other, essentially. So there's actually a treaty saying that it was okay that he do that.
Right, so not only is it not illegal to have those conversations, they are actually bound, by law they have an obligation to help each other because of the treaty that was signed in 1999 by Bill Clinton.
Right. I agree with all that. And if I'm going to give you $400 million unless I talk to you. I mean, I think that's common sense, right? Common courtesy, common practice. But I can't ask you to dig up dirt on somebody when there's already an investigation going on. The investigations, it's not like Trump wanted them to start an investigation. He wanted them to find what they had to find because there's been an investigation going on into Biden and nothing's been found ever.
But no, that there was an investigation, and then the attorney, Biden said if the attorney was not fired, that they were going to withhold, what was it, $1.5 billion. So that's where all this was going. So you've got Zelensky, the president in Ukraine, who basically ran on the same thing as Trump to stop corruption. So what my question is who is the president allowed to talk to? We went through this with everything. When he was talking to Kim Jong-un, North Korea, they say, oh, well, North Korea is this and that, and it's a dictatorship, and you can't have a relationship with him, you can't talk to him, you're colluding with these people. This is never going to stop. this is going to keep going. It doesn't matter who he's talking to. I mean, are you seeing a pattern here with any time that he's either trying to work out a deal or if there's any kind of corruption, that they blame the other side of exactly what they're doing? So it doesn't. If tomorrow there was something that came up with Brazil, right? Then you're going to have the New York Times or the Washington Post. It's going to say, breaking news: an anonymous source says that in 2002, Trump paid for a supermodel to get a Brazilian wax. So he's colluding with the Brazilians. And then when that's over, then we're going to go back to Russia. And then we'll go back to Russia, and then they'll say, oh, well, there's an anonymous source close to the president that says that they were watching Rocky IV. And when the Russian knocked out Apollo Creed and killed him, that Trump smirked.
Right.
So we know he's colluding with the Russians, and he hates black people.
Right. I mean, I think I've been pretty straightforward. I think the Democrats have wasted a lot of time and effort trying to pin stuff on Trump. And that's why even last week when we brought this issue up, I wasn't even aware of it because I thought it was just another frivolous excursion into his past. You know, looking for dirt that's obviously not there. But guys, the more this comes out, the more I think he did something wrong. Like, he can't do this thing.
So did you read the transcript of the phone call?
Nobody read the transcript.
No, I read it. I've read it 15 times.
No, you're not. You read a summary of the transcript.
It's the transcript. I mean, it's the transcript from the call. So the president of Ukraine, he was the first person to bring up draining the swamp for his country. What Trump asked originally was about CrowdStrike, which honestly I think this is what all this is about anyway.
Right. Well, the transcript is actually a memo about the call. In the document, there are several ellipses and insinuating something is left out of the conversation. At the bottom, it literally says something like this. This is not a word-for-word transcript. That thing you said you've read 1,000 times, it's not a transcript. It's
okay,
a memo
so
about the call.
So what happens when the stenographer in court document? It's the same thing as what they do on the phone calls.
Well,
it's the same thing you're looking at. So let me ask you this. If he can't talk to another president about what's going on, now Joe Biden can force somebody to be fired for this, and three of the top Democrats, you got Menendez, Durbin, Leahy, in May of 2018, they can write the Ukraine government urging them to investigate Trump. I just don't understand what the deal is. And the problem is, what is so frustrating for me is that people don't realize this is not just about Trump. They're going to do this to anybody. So the same president, when you get your guy in, if they try to go up against the establishment, they are going to get the same treatment.
So here, my take when I read the transcript, and then I saw a couple other things too that I found interesting, but I took it as if what Trump was asking him to do was to look into the election interference in the 2016 election. That's what he was actually asking him to do. He was saying, look, and as a president of the United States, and it's been talked about 1,000 times, if you think that somebody interfered in our election, as the president, wouldn't you want to get all the resources or go to all the resources that you can to figure out why that happened and to prevent it from happening again? And from what I read, that the Ukrainians actually helped the DNC and Hillary do all this investigation on Trump. Then Trump wins, and they actually reached out to him and said, hey, look, this is what we did. This is what happened. We're sorry. You know, we're trying to make amends for what we did wrong here. I guess that new president...
So he's asking about hacking that happened in an election. How does that benefit him to ask about something from an election that he won?
I think what he asked was...
I don't even understand what the argument is. What is corrupt about that?
What I think everybody's upset about is him asking him to find out with Biden and his son, Hunter, not about the election. I don't think anybody's real concerned about the election stuff. Everybody's concerned because he's wanting to get dirt on a guy who's probably going to be his...
But I heard Pelosi say, you can't talk to another foreign leader about our elections. That's what Pelosi said.
So, let me ask this question then.
Okay.
So, if there is corruption, if it was Joe Biden,
right,
if it was Mitt Romney,
whoever
if it was John, whoever it was on either side,
right,
if somebody has committed crimes against the United States of America, do you not think that we should find that out?
Oh, we definitely should.
Because here's what's happening, and here's what you're going to continue to see happen.
Okay.
Everything is put. You wonder why there's 50 people running for an election? So every time that they go after somebody, they're going to come back and say, oh, well, they're going after political opponents. Right? So, which wouldn't surprise me in the near future if you don't see Hillary throw her name back in the ring, not because she can win. She knows she is destroyed politically. But just for the fact that if they come and have an indictment, then they'll say he's going after political enemies. So what do? Do we just wash everything away that has happened in the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Just for that reason? I mean, that'd be a pretty good thing to do. If I know I'm getting ready to get indicted for something, well, I'm just going to run for office and say, well, they're going against political enemies.
Well, but it's not like there was already an investigation going on, though. So what was even
There
doing?
was already investigations going on.
Right, there were. And the reason, the way I understand, Biden asked Zelensky to fire this attorney in the Ukraine, but he wouldn't. I mean, a lot of people, the EU was wanting this prosecutor gone too, because he was
okay.
corrupt.
That's a perfect point. You know why the EU wanted him gone? Do you know who else they were investigating? George Soros.
Well, I know that this investigation has been going on for a long time into Biden, and 3 different people have took the lead in this investigation, and they've not found anything.
Well, John Solomon just released some documents the other day, and it was actually a signed affidavit by the prosecutor that was forced to resign by Biden. That says, and I guess the Ukrainians turned over their evidence too to Trump and those guys when he first got elected. And it basically said that the reason he got fired is not for corruption. It was because Biden was going to withhold all this money. This is sworn affidavits by these guys that there was actually no corruption by this particular prosecutor.
The Ukrainian prosecutor?
Yes, that there was no corruption. The reason that he was fired, and this was John Solomon, I heard this the other day, he had a signed affidavit that the reason he was fired is because there was political pressure put on by Biden. And Biden clearly says that Obama knew, said to give him a call. And that there was actually no corruption, that this was why he got fired. This was because Biden put this pressure on.
But that's the same exact thing they said about the investigation into Biden, that there was no corruption. But we
Who said that?
They
stopped the investigation because they
it's been going on for so long. They haven't found anything. It's 3 years. The investigation's been going on a long, long time.
So, but these things, it doesn't matter who. It's just a side thing, and that's what drives me crazy with this. And I think that something that we're going to have to figure out at some point is, so just like as these investigations go and this onion starts getting peeled back, this is not just going to be the Democrats, right? We're going to get a lot of Republicans that are roped into that. I'm good with that. I want the corruption on both sides, no matter who it is. But I sat for 2 years and I said, okay, you investigate Trump, you say you got this, maybe you do, maybe you got, let's let it play out and see what happens. So nothing happens. So we're going to keep going on with everything. We're going to ignore all the other corruption, but we are going to go after him for anything that he does. And this isn't about Trump for me. This is about, we have not had, have you ever thought about, in your entire lifetime, have you ever wondered that you have a Republican president for 48 years?
Right.
Then you have a Democrat
right.
for 48 years.
Right.
And then it switches back. Have you ever seen 16, 20 years with one in our lifetime?
No.
Right. So what happens every single time?
You get tired of
is you have somebody, they come and sell you all these dreams.
Well.
And then they run. They don't do anything. So the other side gets pissed off. So then we come back and we go, oh, well, that didn't work. So then somebody else sells us a bill of goods. And then you vote for the other side. And we go back and forth. How much has your life improved through any of these presidents that you've supported or not supported? We've got to a point now where running for president is not even about, it's not even about liking somebody. When was the last person, aside from maybe the Republicans and Reagan, where somebody really wooed the people? It's not even about liking anybody anymore. You don't have to get the population to like you. You just have to get the population to hate your opponent.
Right.
More than they hate you. And this left-right thing, as long as we stay in this, we have to understand that it is a total scam just to keep us arguing and having these conversations about Democrats and Republicans.
here's the big problem that I have, just as far as sitting and thinking about it, is I voted for Barack Obama the first time he ran.
Right.
For very much the reasons that Brad's talking about. I wanted something different. I liked the way that his message came across. Was one of the best, I guess, orators, or however you would say that word, that probably in history. So I voted for him because I thought, okay, he's different. You know, there's a different vision here. There's a different vision. Then he comes in, he does what he does, especially with air, you know, where we live with coal mining and things like that. So the second time he ran, I didn't vote for him.
Right.
Negatively affected me and my business.
Right.
Since Trump's been president, that thing has gotten better. But even though I didn't like Obama, he was still my president. And to me, maybe I'm old-fashioned in the way that I think about that, but he is our president. And the way that Obama was the president, so no matter whether I liked his policies or not, I could voice my opinion about it. But I would have been upset if they would have went after Obama like this. I mean, this is just insane. I mean, and this is the part that irritates me the most. You have Schiff the other day in a hearing spout off a bunch of nonsense. I mean, there was nothing that he said that was factually true. Nothing. And then he got called on it. And he said, "Oh, well, it was supposed to have been a parody."
Yeah, that was just parody.
That was just parody.
Yeah.
And
That's
they do that
ridiculous.
for the same reason, like with the headlines, what you'll see.
Clickbait.
It's clickbait because they're counting on. I mean, just to put it out there, guys, they think we're stupid, right? It's the same way the media work. They think we're stupid. So you can put, how many articles have you read where the top of the article says one thing, and you're like, well, that's interesting, and you actually read the 5-page article, and it has nothing about that in the article. Yeah. So he's putting that on there because he knows that people will sit and listen to that first couple minutes, and people aren't going to sit and listen for 2 hours.
I'm going to tell you who I blame. You stay with me now, okay? I'm going to go up deep with you, Brad. I blame Larry Flint for every bit of this. I'm serious. Yes.
That's where Larry Flint?
Have you watched The People versus Larry Flint?
I have.
And you know his story about the satire with Jerry Falwell and all that stuff? There used to be libel. You guys remember libel? Mm-hmm. You couldn't spread negative lies about somebody. You could, if it was true, it was one thing. But if you were just slandering somebody, libel and slander was not part of the game, right? That's when journalism was real. That's when we got stories, not opinions. And so you're a lot right. I agree with you a whole lot. It's not a left and right thing. And it's not Democrats versus Republicans. And it's not Republicans versus Democrats. It's keeping us divided is what they're trying to do, first off.
Absolutely.
I agree with that. I mean, I've always said I think that, I don't care if you're right or left, we probably agree on 90% of the issues.
Yeah.
It's that 10% that they drive the wedge in between us and try to keep us separated. Well, the other thing that I saw too, and I'm like, God, because this really, it really irritates me what's going on right now. I wouldn't vote for the Democratic candidate right now. I don't care who it was. I mean, like, there was a guy I was watching, it was the Today Show. Amy turns that on in the morning when we're getting ready, for school, getting ready for our day. And they had this congressman on, and he said, we've got to look at the transcripts. We've got to look at the quid pro quo. That's a serious issue. We've got to know this. They released the transcript. And the guy on NBC on the Today Show actually says, well, there's no actual quid pro quo. And the congressman says, well, that's irrelevant. Well, you just said the day before that we've got to see this. And now it's irrelevant because it didn't say what you thought it should.
Right, exactly. That's truth. That's true. It's true. But it happens both sides. I mean, we all agree with that.
We know
right?
it happens on both sides, but it is happening a whole lot more on one side right now than it is.
Well, it is because the head guy is who he is, man. That's the truth.
So how about this?
We couldn't get anything done.
Okay, so this is so important. So if this is really so important to everybody, if there was massive corruption here, if we're talking about treason and high crimes that Trump did with Ukraine, so this is so important that the Congress that just got off vacation is getting ready to take another 2-week recess. That's how important it is. So can you imagine, if this is legit, do you think you might say, hey folks, we need to stay at home. We got 2 weeks. Our president is a dictator and we might have him for high crimes and treason, but I'll tell you what, let's go on vacation. We'll talk about it in 2 or 3 weeks when we get back. And that's what frustrates me is these people, we do not work for them. They work for us. You know, we elect these people to represent us. And the truth is, these people are just the middle managers. Our senators and congressmen, you know, I've said since the first episode that the country is run by the intelligence agencies. And now you watch every one of these stories, and as they unroll, everything goes back to the CIA. Everything will go back to the CIA. You've got our country, and you're talking about, we have more laws passed. They're not actually passed, but we have more laws and regulations put into place by an unelected bureaucracy than we actually do by Congress, to your point earlier. Right? What has Congress done? I don't know what Congress has done, but you look at you look at the IRS, and you look at the EPA, and you look at all of the huge bureaucracy that we have.
Right.
One of the things, and you say, well, how do you fix that? Well, one of the things that Trump ran on was he said that he was going to eliminate, for every new regulation, that you would have to eliminate two. Right? Because we've got a gazillion regulations. So you ask, well, how are they doing on that? There was just a Washington Examiner just released something. For every one regulation that we've passed, they've eliminated 16 since Trump's been in office. The frustration is when, like, say you don't like Trump, that's fine. So what are you going to do in 4 years? What do you do when he's gone? Say you impeach him. They don't want to. They know they can't impeach him.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, it's a total waste of time.
And it's all about delaying time. They're just trying to kick this can down the road to try to sow doubt in enough people to affect an election. But let's just say he got impeached. What then? What do you want things to go back to normal? So here's what normal looks like. Next election, we'll get, I don't know the name, maybe it's Neil, maybe it's whoever. We'll get somebody from the Bush family, right? Running against Chelsea Clinton or running against something. We'll have the same thing that we've had forever. So you've got one person in the last 50 years. Look, I don't like everything about Trump. I'm not trying to lionize the guy. But if nothing else, he's fighting against the intelligence agencies and the bureaucracy that is running our country right now. You know the last person to do that?
John F. Kennedy?
Was John F. Kennedy, and they made a canoe out of his head. You know, he came out against the intelligence agencies. Now, how scary is that? If you think that we've got the people with all the information. I mean, how much blackmail, for instance. Look at all the people that are getting busted, the Epsteins, the Nexiums, all these different stuff with blackmail.
Right.
So how much do you think, I'm not trying to take any responsibility away from Senate and Congress, but you ever notice some of these people, even when they're up there saying ridiculous stuff, it looks like a hostage video? I mean, how many of these people do you think that they have got blackmail on that are just doing what they're told to do?
Well, here's the question I have, and something that I've kind of noticed is what they're doing right now seems incredibly extreme. So I'm wondering, is there something coming down the pike that they're scared to death? And they're like, okay, we're all getting ready to burn here. We've got one more chance to try to get this guy out of here to keep this from happening. Because they are doing, I mean, to me, this is insane. Now, the one thing we haven't talked about yet was the whistleblower.
Yeah, I wanted that too, for sure.
So, the whistleblower, the person who apparently reported this, didn't even have first-hand information of this. It was almost like third-hand information. And I thought that the definition of a whistleblower, I thought you had to have actual, maybe first-hand knowledge to be a whistleblower. And I'm not coming out against the whistleblower, but it looks like that what the statement that was prepared probably wasn't prepared by him or her. I'm not sure if it was a he or she. That probably had some help doing it. But my question is, do you think that there must be something pretty big? Because we've got some investigations that are about to wrap up. And do you think that they know they're cooked? And so now they're they're making their last stand essentially against Trump to try to get him out of there? Or is that extreme, JD, or does that feel like a conspiracy theory?
No, I mean, those things are definitely possible, man. You know what I'm saying? But here's what I thought about with the whistleblower. Like, I feel like we ought to protect our whistleblowers. Guys are trying to expose corruption. If there is corruption, guys, then people should be able to come forward. I think Edward Snowden is a hero. I don't think he's a criminal.
I agree with you on that. I think whistleblowers...
I disagree with you all on Snowden specifically, but we'll get into that on another show.
Right. But we got to protect people that are willing to come forward to expose corruption. But I can't think of one instance where that's happened. They've been excommunicated. They've been, I'm sure, taken out and shot in fields, and buried before people got the information out. So like this, I don't know, man. I don't know what the answer is. I know that you should be able to come out. If you want to dry the swamp, drain the swamp, you can't be an alligator. You know what I'm saying? And you got to be able. You got to let whistleblowers be able to step forward. And if there's something there, then there's something there, guys. So that's why we need to look at it. That's why I think the inquiry's right.
Am I wrong? Did I read something somewhere that they changed recently the definition of what a whistleblower could be? Like almost like maybe a month ago, 2 days ago. I mean, something crazy like 2 days before the whistleblower came out. Am I wrong that I read that?
The way that the whistleblower form it used to be set up is it stated specifically on there that it had to be firsthand information. There was no hearsay. That form was changed last month, right before all this stuff happened.
So that's interesting. That's an interesting question. Something
probably a coincidence.
Yeah. Yeah, you think here and again, like I said, I think what the Democrats are doing here, I'm being dead serious about this. I think they just ensured Trump's reelection. It's energized Trump's base for sure. Because in 3 days after Pelosi made her announcement,
$15 million, I think
they raised $15 million, and that was basically by individual donors and different things. So they definitely energized the base. I think people, and this, it seems the Russia deal, now this, and really everything else since Trump has been president seems to be a coordinated attack by a group and our media.
But hold on.
Let me finish this statement. If our media and some group are able to impeach a president, then our republic as we know it is forever gone. And that's the scariest part to me, is that you could have a coordinated effort by a group of people and then with the media's help, because it is clear that to me anyway, it is clear to me that the media is as involved in this as the people that are trying to get him removed. It's a coordinated effort, and if that's allowed to happen, then our republic is forever changed.
And that was my point exactly earlier, is this is not about Trump. I mean, it looks like it's about Trump in the news. They're not trying to take down Trump. They're trying to take down us as a populace and say, look, your vote doesn't matter. We are going to undo an election. You know, I'm like Jimmy Don. I wasn't an Obama supporter. I wasn't a Bush supporter. I might write a letter to somebody. I might speak my voice about something. I didn't want to see them taken out of office for something they didn't do. Right? So we're going to set a precedent here that it doesn't matter, again, if you don't like Trump, whatever, he's gone. So what about your guy? Are you good with that with your guy? Because this is very, very serious.
Here's my take on the whole situation. This ain't about a play for the presidency, guys. I think, I'm not a Trump supporter at all. Don't even like the guy, you know that. But I think he's going to get reelected. Because the economy is just too good for him not to get reelected. This is a play for the Senate. I think the House wants to impeach. And they want to get the Senate on record with their vote. And they're going to run their campaigns. This guy, here's the campaign ad. What does Trump got to do before this guy turns his back on him and votes him out? And that's where the Democrats are going to make their play for the Senate.
See, and I think
they want to win Congress.
I think you might be right there, but I think what they're doing is I think they're going to lose the House. And I think they're going to strengthen the Senate. I think that people are so sick of this. Because, look, guys, I will tell you that the Russia thing, I thought it was a bunch of junk, but at the same time, I was like, okay, let's let it play out. If something this serious actually happened, let's let this play out and see what happened. Turns out to be nothing. All right? Now you've got this Ukraine story, which is just Russia 2.0. That's all it is. And it's going to turn out to do nothing. Trump's not going to get impeached.
Here's what I want to ask, the question nobody's asking. Why are we giving $400 million worth of military aid to Ukraine?
We're giving stuff to people all over the
Why?
world.
Why though? Why would we give? What do we get back for that $400 million? Is what I'm asking.
Nowhere near the return on our investment.
Well, this not even like this ain't food packages, man. This is military aid. So what is our return? To me, it's bad business.
And I think that's a whole other topic, like we've talked
It
about.
really is.
The industrial complex,
Sure.
the military-industrial
Sure.
complex. I think that is.
But this is a part of the thing, man. Like, I just don't think we got $400 million we need to be sending to the Ukraine.
Well, I mean, you could do a whole show on that, but
Right.
we're sending billions, trillions of dollars
To every country.
everywhere.
Right.
Think about, I mean, you could go into the money that we're spending right here in America that is in the billions of dollars for just absolute nonsense. And that's, again, to my point about the bureaucracy. We've got all of these people doing a lot of these jobs that aren't even needed, and these people are basically making more laws than the Congress, and it's not even legal, but nobody's done anything about it in the past. And we sit here and we fight about these congressmen and these senators.
Right.
And again, they're not doing anything. But I don't even think that they're in control.
Right. But here's my point, though. If I say the word aid, and we're sending aid to Africa, what do you think about?
I think we're feeding them
Food, medicine,
It's-
Clothing, not F-16s, choppers, and tanks. Right? Guys, we're spending $400 million to Ukraine for military aid. That's what that is. That's weaponry. And to me, it's just, I don't have a problem with sending food and clothing and blankets and coats and shoes and, things people need.
humanitarian.
Humanitarian aid. But now, I've got a problem with $400 million worth of military aid.
but that goes back to, and you have touched on this a number of times on our shows, the military-industrial complex.
Right.
So you've got the military-industrial complex, you've got the bureaucracy, and you've got the intelligence agencies who are running this whole
Moving the money
deal
around.
and just moving money around. And we're sitting here, and, I think George Carlin, the late George Carlin, probably said it best. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. So right now what we're seeing, again, it's not about Trump. It's about your guy. The next person that comes in might be a Democrat, a Libertarian, a Green Party,
Whatever.
whatever they are. It doesn't make any difference. They are telling us as citizens,
You vote.
no. You voted. You got a president. We're not going for that. You need to shut up and sit down.
Yeah, you voted the wrong way.
I definitely see that point of view. Like that makes a lot of sense because even though I support this inquiry, the things they went after him about is a lot of nonsense. Let's just be honest. Been a lot of nonsense. I'm not sure that this is that, but I am wore out of the Democrats investigating nothing.
Well,
And it's been fruitless. All of it's been fruitless.
And I think that's what this is going to turn out to be too. I said,
And if it is, that's fine. If it is, but it needs to be looked at.
the thing, we just continue to do this and do this. There was a guy on TV the other day. They just want to impeach Trump for whatever reason. They think it's so important, and I still can't figure out exactly what he's done for impeachment. Like, why even go through the process of impeachment? I still can't figure out exactly what he did that required. All I see is that they're telling me that, hey, you guys voted the wrong way in the last election, and we're going to take care of that because it doesn't suit us.
I'll tell you exactly what he's done. He's pissed off the Fed. He shook up the pharmaceutical companies. If you go to the Department of Justice, you will see every day a new indictment, a new charge for somebody, either whether it's opioids, pill mills, any kind of medical corruption. Every single day. Now, obviously, you're not going to hear about that on the news, but that's happening every day. So he's going after the pharmaceutical companies. He's going after the media. He's going after the intelligence agencies. That's exactly why they want him gone. Can you imagine another scenario with a president that the economy does what it does. And a lot of times you can say, well, you read in the paper, but you can take these numbers and whatever. I'm talking personally as an individual with a 401k. Look, it's been good since Trump's been in, right? So again, they do not want to destroy him. They want to tell you that you don't matter, and we are going to go back to business as usual.
Now, I want to get this out there, what I think of him. And here's where I think he could get impeached over this. He asked for a favor while the money was being withheld. The favor was to investigate CrowdStrike, a cyber security company that was hired by the DNC to trace who hacked them before the domestic law enforcement was involved.
Did he even say CrowdStrike in the call?
I don't remember.
Yeah, he said CrowdStrike because CrowdStrike was the one in the election. So with CrowdStrike, so you've got CrowdStrike that was, the DNC got hacked.
Right.
Now you would think if the RNC or the DNC got hacked, who would you think would be the first person they would call? FBI?
Yeah, probably.
Maybe?
Yeah.
No, let's outsource that. So we're going to go to CrowdStrike. So the DNC outsourced this to CrowdStrike and refused to let the FBI investigate it. I'm still not sure how that works, but they refused to let them investigate it. So apparently they've got the servers there, and CrowdStrike had a whole big thing with Russia, and it came out that, I don't even remember all the details, but it was basically something about they had claimed that Russia hacked into something else, and it came out to just be garbage.
So he asked Trump to he asked the president of Ukraine to investigate CrowdStrike, Joe, and Hunter Biden, all while coordinating with his personal attorney and his AG. These actions break at least two laws: campaign finance and extortion, bribery laws. After the whistleblower filed a complaint in the exactly appropriate and legal way, the administration directed acting Defense National or DNI McGuire to break the law by not turning the complaint over to the congressional oversight committees within a 7-day period. Especially after Trump appointed Inspector General found the complaint to be credible and an urgent risk. This is obstruction of Congress and obstruction of justice. That's why this is a big deal.
But didn't they bring that guy in, the acting director of DNI, the other day?
Mm-hmm.
That was when Schiff did his little thing.
He made a fool of himself, by the way.
He really did. Yeah. But I can't remember the guy's name that's the acting director of DNI.
McGuire.
Is it McGuire?
Yes.
Okay, so, and I found it interesting to listen to his opening statements that he talked about his storied and honorable military service, his service, well, not really service, but his, his work in the private sector, his family history serving the country, and until right now, his integrity had never been questioned. Until right now.
Right.
So I don't think this guy did anything wrong. And he's clearly stated that they didn't really delay it. They were looking at, I guess, the presidential privilege was the word for it.
Executive privilege.
Executive privilege. And it took a little while with the lawyers to figure out exactly how they had to handle it. And so that's what they did. They didn't actually, he came out and said they didn't actually hold anything up. And as a matter of fact, they released everything. They released the transcript. They released the whistleblower complaint. So how are they obstructing?
But they didn't do it within 7 days. They didn't do it within the time frame. There's laws on the books, and that's why they're there. You got to follow the protocol, right?
But he said legally that they did break no law.
So you got executive privilege. Where's that executive privilege? How far does that reach? You'd like to withhold it?
Apparently not very far because...
Well, apparently it lasts more than 7 days.
With the president that's being set now, you can't do anything. Like if we get another president in 4 years, and if Trump was involved in some kind of corruption, golly, I want him to be able to look into it. Right?
Yeah,
but you can't do that anymore. As the leader of the free world, you are not allowed to ask questions about any previous crimes, because we're going to do 7 steps to bacon, and if it comes back to somebody that's in Congress or the Senate or somebody that's running for election, then you're going after political opponents.
But guys, this complaint was already legitimized before, and it still wasn't turned over to the Congress in time.
And that was right after Adam Schiff sent one of his people over there. We can pull up the documents on that. right before this whistleblower came out and was saying this stuff. And then Adam Schiff happens to be the ringleader that's up there talking about the parody stuff.
Explain that to me, what you just said. Break that down a little further, because I'm not following what you're saying.
So one of Adam Schiff's staffers, I mean, you can pull up the document where he signed the travel release deal, whatever, for them to go to Ukraine. So they go to Ukraine right before this whistleblower comes out. And then now we have this hearing, and then Adam Schiff's the ringleader. I mean, it's frustrating when you keep seeing this over and over, but I think it's kind of funny because let's see where it goes, right? I honestly, at this point, think the best case scenario for Trump would be for Congress to actually vote for impeachment. Because then what's going to happen is it's going to go to the Senate and they will have a trial where he can defend himself and where all of the information's laid out on the table. And I say, let's go, baby. Let's show our cards.
I agree with that. Because I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. I want you to follow the law, follow the rules, and I'm like you, put the cards on the table. Let's see them.
I'm going to look into what you just talked about, the 7-day thing, because I watched that hearing the other day, and the way that the gentleman kind of laid it out is that he said there was actually no law broken.
Well, wasn't that McGuire broke the law? Is that the administration asked him to?
Well, he was saying that, no, he said they didn't. He explicitly said that they did not.
So what was the executive privilege then?
That's normal. That's a normal legal, process. Is that they report, they have a certain amount of time. It's the way I understood it.
That's a pretty good deal. That's a pretty good deal. There's laws on the books, but your executive so
here's where this really hurts, though. Is this where this hurts over time? And I don't think that they thought that he was actually going to release the transcript of the phone call. But here's where this becomes a problem. Because if in the future, you think if you're trying to negotiate with another country and you're trying to get something worked out, and they've got in the back of their mind, well, if somebody throws some of this crazy stuff out there, then the president's going to want to release this transcript of our conversation. So I think it can hurt your relations long term.
This is kind of a side note too, but it has to do with what we're talking about. And it came out right after, and this was on CNN, and I actually watched this, and I was like, what? And then I went and read the memo Jay's talking about, the transcript, and I was like, that's not what they said. They literally pieced together something that made it sound like Trump said, hey, I need you to do me a favor and look into Joe Biden, which is not what he did at all. But they made it appear as if that's what he did. And I'm like, what? So me looking at that, I'm like, okay, if I don't, like we've talked, we all look into these things and kind of do a little more digging. But if you're not actually looking into that, they just told you a complete lie.
And I posted those on our Twitter account for those of y'all that follow us on Twitter. And I did one for the lefties and one for the righties. I did one from CNN and one from Fox, and they both did the same thing. Right. It had the first part, and then
it looked really good. The next one made it look terrible.
Right, but again, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. With the FDAA or whatever that was signed. I don't even know that there's any obligation of the media to tell us the truth. I don't know if there's any legal ramifications if they are allowed to propagandize the American people.
Larry Flint, I'm telling you right now. It goes back to Larry Flint, and I'm saying that jokingly, but when the Supreme Court rules that you can print anything and just say, oh, well, satire.
Well,
right?
So apparently you can do that in these hearings too.
But my point is, where does it stop at, guys? Is there a can you go so far left, so far right? So I mean, there has to be a point where we just need the information. I don't want your spin on it. Just tell me. Put your cards on the table, Brad, and let me see them, and then we'll come to a decision.
It's something, just talking about the Larry Flint and the propaganda and all those different things. I think this was something you posted on our website a couple weeks ago about the not talking about politics and religion.
Right.
Oh, that was a good one.
And it said, don't talk about, do you remember how it was worded?
People tell you not to talk about politics and religion, so people forgot how to talk about politics and religion. You forgot how to have the hard conversations. But we should be having the hard conversations about politics and religion.
So the whole point,
that's basically
you think that is one thing that I have heard since I was a small child. It's right. You don't want to offend people. You don't talk about politics and religion, right? So, how better to get the people out of the process than to convince them from the time they're 7 years old that you don't talk about politics and religion? Because I'll tell you who is talking about politics and religion. Every newspaper, every TV show, every movie that you watch. So they say, well, don't talk about religion because you don't want to offend somebody.
Right.
But hey, tune into this channel and you can watch a show called Lucifer for an hour.
Right.
Right? So politics and religion is injected into everything that we do. But we're told to just back out of it.
Right.
I mean, it's insane where things have gone. Think about how many things that are not normal, that were not normal 20 years ago, that we've put into our brains now, that you're working on trying to accept. Right? How many things are just completely insane? You know, however many years ago it was when I told Jimmy Don, I said, look, I want to show you a couple articles and I'll tell you what they're doing here. They are trying to normalize pedophilia. And they will gradually, like boiling the frog, they are going to move this up. You remember us having those conversations, right?
Absolutely.
And your first reaction was, man, you're insane.
You're insane.
That will never happen in our lifetime. My wife said that will never happen in our lifetime. So then they gradually come up to where you've got somebody, I think it was California, you had somebody that was actually trying to push a bill to make pedophilia a sexual orientation, right?
Yeah.
So you think, well, it can't get any worse than that. You know, that was just a one-off thing. So I sent you last week a couple articles that have started popping up. Now, you had a couple years ago the guy from CNN that's on one of these shows, and he's with some Aborigines or something, and they're eating their cuisine, and he eats a human brain, right? And they think, oh, well, it's just funny, it's a little thing. So now, just in the last couple of days, these articles have come out that say, you know, you've got one guy that says cannibalism might be the solution to climate change. And then there's another article that says, you know, cannibalism is you know, might be natural for the human beings. And they will put this stuff out.
Right.
Cosmo, which JD, I think Cosmo, that's your favorite magazine, right?
Absolutely.
Cosmo. There was an article in Cosmo that said that opening a car door for a female is basically, what's the word I'm looking for?
Politically incorrect, like a put down. So what you mean?
Right, that it's sexist.
Degrading
right.
sexist, yeah.
Said that it's sexist. Now, and you know, I that was funny. It kind of struck me because one thing I try to do is I open the car door for my wife. Now, you all know my wife. Now, in the article, it said that you're doing that and it's sexist because the female is helpless. You're making her be helpless. Now, you all know my wife, Jimmy Don. You know her real well.
She ain't helpless.
She
ain't nothing helpless about her.
She might be 5'0" and she is absolutely a lady. But now, she'd knock your brains out if she needed to. She's a hard worker. She's a beautiful woman. I want to treat her as such. Mm-hmm. So I opened the car door for her. Well, that stuff is coming out in articles now. Well, my boys see me do that. So now they want to race to the car and they want to open the door for mom.
Right.
Can you imagine 20 years from now? That might be a hate crime.
Man, I'm going to tell you, like, growing up in the strict household that I did with a stern mom, when I dressed adults, it was sir or ma'am. But apparently, that is, like, outdated now. Like, to call somebody man was a bad move. Like, that's degrading, you know.
Right.
But to your point about normalizing things, you know, I remember being in middle school and high school and watching the Jerry Springer show all the time. Do you guys remember the Jerry Springer shows?
Yeah. That was like we sat down and watched it every day when I was in college.
Okay. So one of the things they used to do a lot of there was transgenders. And these people would come out and everybody would be like, oh, and shame the fire out of those people. But now, could you imagine that same show going on right now at Jerry Springer? No way. You couldn't. There's no way you could shame them people. I'm not saying you should, but I'm saying that thing has been normalized over the last 20, 25 years.
So how many things?
Oh,
okay, I'm glad you brought that up because if you think about the talk shows, I think the first talk show was in like 1951. Mm-hmm. Just a couple years after the CIA was founded, but that's, you know, that's neither here nor there. But, so you had talk shows. And then, I don't remember the old ones from 50s or 60s, but the first one I remember, my mom sitting and watching right when I was a little kid, was Donahue.
Right.
And then it went from Donahue, and then it went from Oprah. So think about how many things socially that the first time they were presented to you, the first time you knew about them, was because you heard about them on a talk show. So then you had the progression. You had Donahue. Then you had Oprah. Mm-hmm. Then we had Ricky Lake.
Maury.
Right? And then we're talking about Ricky Lake, and we're talking about, okay, siblings that hate each other and hit each other with baseball bats. And then you go into Maury. So, okay, well, look.
Not the father.
Promiscuity's the thing. Here's the thing. You need to have a bunch of babies, not know who the dad is, whatever. And how many Maury shows are about the DNA test came back and you are not the father, right?
Well, that's what Maury is, right?
Toward the end, that's what it became. So then what did you progress to is Jerry Springer, where it was off the walls. So have you seen the evolution of these things that have been just pounded in your brain over the years?
Yeah, for sure. And one of my favorite clips on YouTube was actually Marilyn Manson on the Donahue show. And when he first came out, he was trying to get the whole male movement moving, and Tipper Gore was on there. And if you haven't seen that on YouTube, please check it out. You'll get a good laugh out of it. Where we at, Jimmy? We ready for some college football?
Yeah, we're almost out of time here.
Guys, by the way, that was a pretty good discussion.
That was a great discussion. I enjoyed that, and JD gave me some things to think about, so I'm going to go look into it at least. Anything else we want to go on that topic, guys?
No.
No.
I'm ready to make my move on Brad again.
So let's get into the last segment then.
Now,
this is our college football picks.
I'm going to be honest because I want to be honest with our listeners, but on this college football thing, it was kind of getting a little out of hand before.
Oh, here we go.
Just for theatrical effect, I wanted to make sure that we kind of rein this in a little bit, get a little closer.
Give me a mulligan.
Yes.
I just want y'all to know that I'm a wee bit offended that you all think it's between the two of you.
No, you were tied.
And we're tied.
Hey, hold on a second. We haven't even decided what he's going to wear yet.
I'm not deciding. You know, I gave it some thought this week. I'm not sure y'all's going to wear anything. I think we might do a little ghost pepper or something.
Ooh.
A little hot sauce or something. I think that might be fun.
That wouldn't be punishment.
Oh, you like that stuff?
I like that stuff, yeah.
Good, because I like to watch people do it.
Yeah.
You've obviously never had ghost pepper.
All right, so last week's results were JD and Jimmy Don went 4-1. Brad went 3-2. That now puts JD and Jimmy Don tied at 15-9 overall, and Brad is 16-8 overall. So he's got a 1-game lead on me and JD.
Who was leading again? I wasn't paying attention there.
I think you said Brad. Okay. Brad has a 1-game lead.
But now listen, it was a 2-game lead. Hold on. 2 weeks ago it was a 4-game lead. Last week it was a 2-game lead. And was it this week?
It's 1 game. But he's clearly stating he's sandbagging. He's trying to help us out.
I understand.
For dramatic effect. Yeah. So we always kind of talk about the Cats. Now I didn't actually get to watch the Kentucky game at all because I was at the Guns N' Roses show.
Unfortunately, I did watch the game. Unfortunately.
I mean, are we just not good?
We're not good.
We're just not good?
We're not. No. I think we might have played over our head for the first couple of weeks. And I think we're coming down to reality, and reality's sitting in on us. We're just not that good.
And then I think with Terry Wilson going down, we've realized that's a bigger hit than what we all realized.
For sure.
How did Sawyer play?
Not well.
Not well.
Bad balls everywhere. Brad, did you see him throw any good balls?
No, and it wasn't just little misses. I mean, we're talking 10
wide open receivers and balls nowhere around.
Did we have receivers drop balls? I mean, are we dropping passes?
I don't think the balls got to them.
I don't think that Inspector Gadget could have caught the balls.
Oh, wow. So what about the running game? Do we even run the ball?
I mean, then you know what everybody's going to do if you can't throw the ball?
Sack the box?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. That stinks. Because I had high hopes for this year.
Yeah.
But I'm still a Cats fan. It doesn't matter.
Yes, baby.
Which we got the bye week this next week, so we get a weekend off from traveling.
One of my favorite memes this week, by the way. I hate Tennessee. I want to tell you now. But they had the bye week beating the Volunteers like 49-3.
So, and we always do too, JD, and I want to talk about the high school team this weekend, which of course we've said on here before. JD's defensive coordinator for our local high school football team. Brad and I go to try to harass JD from the stands, and he won't look at us.
Next game, we're going to paint our chests.
I'm just going to put J, and then Brad will have D, and we'll be up there right behind where he generally stands on the field. And like I said, I was going to throw you the I can't talk. Degeneration X sign, but you won't look at us. So, but the high school football team, that was one of the hardest hitting football games that I'd been to in person in a long time. Both teams.
Yeah.
Both teams. I mean, it was what they call a slobber knocker.
Yeah.
I mean, my goodness, the pads were popping. I saw more people laying on the ground, hurt on both sides. And then the first half, we actually went into halftime. The score was 0-0. Nobody could really do anything. And then we came out in the second half, and the Cardinals just kind of took over, man, and dominated the rest of the game.
And that's what we knew. We felt like going into the game, that's what was going to happen. They was going to they was going to hang around, and we was eventually going to physically dominate them and bend them to our will. And that's kind of what happened. Proud of our kids, man. I'm you guys, you know how I am. I'm an aggressive style person. I'm probably type A personality. And I think that defense is kind of taking on, my personality a little bit.
It's definitely taking on your personality.
And so we're flying to the football, and I love seeing those red jerseys swim to the ball, man.
Man, it's awesome. I think
get that goose egg. Got that goose egg, baby.
It's definitely taking on your personality. It's ugly, it's mean, and it's rough. Hey, one thing
most people will be offended by that, but I'm not.
Jace, thank you.
Because I've watched this video about 10 times in slow mo. But JD's son Chase, who was on one of the shows before, he hit this poor guy, big boy.
Yeah,
he hit this guy and absolutely knocked the taste out of his mouth.
Yeah, that was a flag, but it was absolutely worth it.
You didn't care at all.
I did not care at all. We got an interception, and our linebacker gets into the flats, catches the ball, heads up the sideline, and Chase just cracks back on his kid and rocked his world.
Man, and that was going on all night, all over the field. I mean, how about our health? I mean, are we healthy? We're pretty banged up.
We're banged up, but we're going to be all right.
It's football.
We're going to rest some kids this week. We got probably a team this week that's probably not as good as we are. And we're probably going to rest some kids and try to get healthy because we got some big games coming up.
So Bath County's in our district, right? That was the first district win?
First district win we've had in 8 years.
Really?
In 8 years.
I didn't know that. That's the first district game we've won in 8 years.
Yeah.
You know why?
It was 27-0.
It's because
I've been coming to
games.
Because Brad's a good luck charm.
Brad's the lucky charm. So, and then after this, what would you say Bath County, like in the district, where would they be ranked in the district?
They're going to be our fourth, I think.
Be the fourth. How many people in our district? Six.
Yeah.
Okay.
This top three is going to be it's going to be a slugfest for top 3 spots.
That's cool, man. Well, they really look good. It's exciting to see our football team be good.
Mm.
That was always a big thing when I was in school here.
Yeah. We've always been good.
We've always been good.
But we've just been we had a rough time, man. And but we're building back up. It's took us a while. It's been a long, slow process. These kids are buying in what we're doing. We're working hard. They're working hard.
Well, that's clear, man. You got some talents. Kids like to fly around the ball. They hit hard. I think Chase actually told me that one of the umpires, referees, whatever, actually told him they were the hardest hitting team that they had seen.
Yeah. Oh, I believe that.
Well, I've had fun. I bought me a T-shirt, thinking about investing maybe in a foam finger. I don't know.
There you go.
Yeah, I might get crazy, but
yeah. I mean, it's a surprise, but Brad and I have had T-shirts made with these selfies JD posts on our Facebook page, and we've got one with just JD's face right there on top, and JD's #1 fan.
Hey,
so
it's good to have fans, baby.
That's right, man. All right, so let's get into the picks this week, guys, and we'll wrap this one up. The first game that I've got down is number 14 Iowa at number 20 Michigan, and Michigan is a 13-point favorite. Brad, I'll let you start on this one.
Michigan.
I go Michigan. I don't want to go with them.
I'm going to take Iowa. I think Michigan is overrated.
They are overrated.
They have not played well, and I'm going to take Iowa on that one.
Where's is that Michigan?
It's at Michigan. It's at the Big House.
Yeah.
But 13, that's a lot.
That's definitely one of the places I'd like to go, by the way.
Me too. I'd like to go to the Big House one time. Well, maybe we can start doing that with the Just Add Bourbon show. We can travel to.
How cool would that be?
That would be fun because I'd like to go to Notre Dame too.
Dude, that's on everybody's list, right?
Yeah.
Touchdown
right.
Jesus all day.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. All right, next game, number 7 Auburn and number 9 Florida, and Florida's actually a 6-point favorite.
Give me the Tigers. I ain't taking no Gators. Give me the Tigers, baby.
Tigers.
I'm going Tigers too. I think Auburn's actually pretty good. I think they're a pretty good team.
Yeah.
And Florida.
I'm not a believer.
I'm not a believer in Florida yet either. And I mean, they were good, but we played with them. Yeah. We were better than they were that night.
Yep.
And still got beat, and maybe that's turned out for us to be, maybe we've lost 2 games after the Florida game because Florida beat us. But Let's see. Next one, number 15, Cal at number 13, Oregon. Oregon is a 15.5-point favorite.
So when are you going to pick first?
I'll pick first right now. I'm going to go.
See how he's
I like it.
I'll pick first right now. Smarty pants.
He's laying, by the way, just so everybody knows.
Yeah. So I'm going to take Cal.
I'm taking Oregon.
Now, Oregon's a 15-point favorite?
15.5.
That's a lot of
That's
points.
a lot of points.
I'll go Cal.
Alright, so we're getting a little differentiation this week, which is good. That's why these particular games I picked. Also, I figured out I need to wait later in the day, and I can catch games with more lines. I'm looking too early in the day.
I mean, these are all the ranked teams, man. It's harder to... I
It's
feel like
harder,
yeah.
Well, it's harder to pick. I'm trying to make it a little harder so maybe we don't pick the same ones
Yeah.
and make them more interesting. But anyway, all right. Number 25, Michigan State. At number 5, Ohio State. Ohio State is a 13.5-point favorite. JD, have you gone first yet?
Yeah, but I took the Tigers first. It's all right. Where's it at?
At Ohio State.
Give me the Buckeyes.
I'm taking the Buckeyes.
I am too. I mean, they destroyed Nebraska.
Yeah,
And that was a 7-point. Remember?
Yeah, why was that?
I don't understand that because they destroyed them.
But you remember I commented on how weird that line was. That's a weird line.
That's a strange line. All right, and the last game will be number 11, Texas, who is a 10.5-point favorite at West Virginia.
I'm taking West Virginia.
Woohoo! I'll go second. All right.
Give me the Longhorns. I'll go second. Give me the Longhorns.
I'm going to take Texas, too. I can't believe... Well, we are together, so we're still picking together.
I'm
Brad's over here laughing.
Making my move this week, boys. Brad's going down.
We're going to get him, JD.
Yeah, I think so.
We're going to get him.
I think you just messed up.
I do, too. I think right here is JD and I finally
Make our move.
and take our...
But we picked different, didn't we?
A couple, yeah. All right, guys. So that'll wrap the show up for this week. We appreciate y'all listening. Want to remind you to listen to us on Podbean, iTunes, Spotify. We also now have a YouTube channel. We would really appreciate if you guys would go there and subscribe to that channel for us. Check out our Facebook page, our Twitter page, and our Instagram page. And once again, guys, as we always like to end the show, no matter how bad your week's been, no matter how bad your day's going, if you just add bourbon, it'll get a little bit better. See you guys next week.